Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel for our latest post-game show here at WardyNYM. As you can see, I'm out of town right now. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't doing the show as we speak on a pond table, but sometimes you just got to make do with what you got here, and I will likely probably not even be live tomorrow. Same thing with Sunday, probably not until we do our podcast Sunday night. So this might be the only live show we're doing of this series against the Blue Jays. Other videos would be pre-recorded while I'm out and about enjoying myself out of town right now. But again, what I'm not enjoying, however, is that the Mets had themselves a pitching duel tonight with Justin Verlander and former Met and Seabass, and of course Chris Bassett out-dueled JV. JV had a gutsy outing tonight, but the offense had nothing to show for. Chris Bassett was nothing short of absolutely stellar, and this offense got themselves wiped the floor with them back and forth, smacked around left and right, and the Blue Jays win by a final score of 3-0. I have a lot to say on this game because I'm not only mad, I'm certainly frustrated by the no-show with the offense. I know that this team has a great chance of hopefully bouncing back as soon as tomorrow, but there's a lot of criticisms that I have that we're going to be getting into. But more than anything, I appreciate everyone watching live or on replay as we're breaking down the latest as the Metropolitans again falter to the Blue Jays in game one of a 3-game set on this late Friday night here on the East Coast for people watching on the East Coast. If you're watching different time zones, appreciate you guys being in here no less. Again, the Mets lose by a final score of 3-0. We'll be breaking things down inning by inning, and guys, share a lot of thoughts. Guys, share on how frustrated I am right now with some of the at-bats, because let's face it, as great as it was to see this Mets team sweep a Philadelphia Phillies team that lost tonight, again, in a high-scoring game against the Nationals, they're 7 games now below 500. The Mets offense wasn't pretty by any stretch against the Phillies, but what did they have? They had great pitching, one, and they had timely hitting, two. The Mets had the pitching tonight. You can't falter them with the starting pitching that they had, because Justin Verlander, again, didn't give you his best outing imaginable, but he certainly kept you in this ball game. But of course, the offense just wasn't there. Chris Bassett, I mean, looked like a guy that had this team's number right away. I'm not too shocked by being a former Met and having a good playbook. It really performed the way that we saw Marcus Stroman do against the Mets in his own right. You know, a former Blue Jay, now a current Blue Jay, two starters that were Mets at some point in their career and both carved out the Mets respectively, and a former Blue Jay as well, Taijuan Walker, but the Mets were able to do well against him because Taijuan didn't look comfortable in that start with the Phillies there the other night against the Mets. So a lot to get into, a lot of frustration, a lot of key updates on the Mets front that I want to share with that. Also, of course, I have to give a big shout out to my sponsors and Mojo Sportsbook for New Jersey residents only. So rare MLB, the best fantasy MLB game out there, and Mantis Sleep, but more on them later in the show. Again, appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor to everyone watching live. Can you guys let me know how the audio is? Because I of course, being a schmuck that I am, I forgot to bring the clamp that would hold my boom, the arm for my mic, so I'm just holding it like this. I might even put it down at some point because it's got some weight to it and it's going to be annoying, I could tell throughout the show. But let me know how the audio is, all that stuff. I appreciate. JV, thank you so much for a donation. Let's talk about the 8th shutout. Wardy, put them in their place. Oh, I'm going to. Yeah, the Mets already have tied the amount of shutouts that they had last year as a team offensively. The Mets were shut out a total of 8 times last year in 162 regular season ball games. This year, 8 times around 60 games into the season. That is simply inexcusable. This team needs to be better. And the Mets waste a quality start, and now we're 16-1 on the season when getting at least 6 innings or more from their starting pitching. Entering tonight, they were 16-0. Now they're 16-1, all because of the second pitch of the game, if not the first, that Justin Verlander threw to the leadoff hitter and George Springer. That was the demise of the ball game right then, right there. And unfortunately, again, the Mets offense had nothing, even with a lineup that I was excited to see tonight that you saw there in Beatty, in Alvarez, in Vientos, and no one looked good tonight. I mean, Alvarez, give him credit. He hustled and got down the line, was able to get on base thanks to that error that, again, was the most frustrating inning out of tonight. When you have 2 on, no out, runners on the corners, surely the Mets would at minimum tie the ball game there, but no, they did not, and that's why we have to get into it. But again, appreciate you beauties being in here. I know we're all frustrated. I sure as shit know I am. But again, I'm going to rip into this team, but I'm also going to be wary of the fact that they did just come off of a series sweep against the Philadelphia Phillies club. It would be nice if the Mets played the Phillies every single series, right? But as frustrating as tonight's loss was, I'm not going to beat up on them, say to the same length that I had when they were playing putrid baseball every single night that we saw for a month straight. Don't get me wrong, I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed that I wasted my Friday night when I could have been out doing something better while I'm out of town, no less, versus watching this miserable team. However, this was a pitching duel. Again, again, JV with a gutsy outing. We got a lot to say on him. And again, Seabass, you have to tip the cap, give credit where credit's due. As much as we are frustrated by Seabass's last 2 starts there for the Mets against Atlanta and then the Padres, it doesn't change the fact that he was an innings eater for the Mets a lot last year, was a 15-game winner for a reason, not because of the fact that, he was just lucky now the Mets had a great offense behind him, but Seabass had a lot of really strong starts for the Mets, and of course him facing his former club, not re-signing with them after I initially thought heading into last offseason that he would be the one starter to return, and even I was proven wrong as the Mets would go out and get Kodai Senga, which I'm not upset about. If you look at it this way, the Mets replaced Chris Bassett with Kodai Senga. They replaced Taijuan Walker with Jose Quintana. The Quintana thing hasn't worked out yet. However, Taijuan hasn't worked out on a deal that I do not want anything to deal with if I'm the Philadelphia Phillies. Chris Bassett at his age, again, on a solid contract with the Blue Jays, but understandable at the end of the day why the Mets decided not to turn to go back to him. So I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh my God, I can't believe the Mets let Seabass go. Great start for him, but the same reason why I'm not going to sit here and make that same argument with Marcus Stroman, because Marcus Stroman might be off to a great start this year. He might be a very solid pitcher, but he himself was a clubhouse cancer. So again, there are more elements that go into just the production. It goes into the age of the player, how you expect them to project in the organization, what you can do with that money to allocate it elsewhere. How can you fill those holes if, say, you let those guys go? So again, the point I'm trying to make is Seabass, while I was certainly frustrated with how he ended last season, I don't have any ill will towards him, and he carved up the Mets as he's now on a flight back home already to Toronto as he's having his second kid. And again, congratulations to Seabass on that front. He could have won a full game against this Mets team. Seriously, he could have. With the way that JV's pitch count was, you're kind of surprised that he didn't. But again, he got to go back home to mama and have his second child. And again, I'm wishing them well. But let's get into it. Let's talk about this Mets game. Let's break it down inning by inning. Let's get into all that. Does hurt with Braves losing? It does. Yeah, again, the Mets not gaining ground. However, again, the Braves have not been playing good baseball right now. They've been below 500 over the past 10-plus games now. And that only means so much this early in the season. But what I will say again, the Mets had an opportunity. They had one singular opportunity in this game to really take advantage, and they didn't do it. And that is what I'm going to rip them a new ass for more than anything tonight, as I know you guys are creating. Look, Francisco Lindor, I love the man. At his best, he's arguably the best shortstop of baseball. There's no denying that he's not playing well right now. He's now 2 for his last 27, if I'm not mistaken. Just taking lackadaisical at-bats. He had a shit at-bat in the inning that we're going to be breaking down in a second. He, like many other Mets in this lineup right now, are just not locked in, and that too needs to change. I'm going to share my criticisms and more about this team as we break down the game inning by inning. But again, I appreciate everyone watching live on a replay. Happy to have you in here, Thane. Let's see. Honestly, it's a race thing. It's a race thing. Stop with stroke. It is not a race thing at all. No, not at all. At least it isn't towards how the Mets treated him. That wasn't the case at all. Marcus Stroman, one of the main factors why the Mets did not bring him in return, was quite literally because of the build-up towards the end of that season. 2, it was the asking price in which he was looking for that the Mets weren't interested. He was looking anywhere from 5 to 7 years, and he got a 3-year deal with an opt-out after 2 from the Chicago Cubs for a reason. He was looking for he was looking for at least $100 million. Wasn't getting that. I think got between 70 and 80. And let's not forget the build-up he had with personally calling out Keith Hernandez, personally calling out other people in the organization actively. When he realized that the Mets were maybe going in a different direction 2 off seasons ago, he was whining left and right on Twitter, deleting all of his tweets, calling everyone in Mets fandom a racist, regardless on who that Mets fan was, even if you were the complete opposite. It didn't matter the color that you were. And then he would go on and delete those tweets because, again, that's what a coward does. He claims to be all about, of course, that being a pro advocate for mental health and things like that, yet he has yet to take his own advice. There's a lot of insecurities, and I've went over this with you guys already. And I was someone that loved and admired Marcus Stroman. And I still, as a player, I still admire him. A great talent, but personality-wise, I mean, he can't get out of his own way. And that is exactly why he signed that deal with the Cubs. And now he's going to look to try to get a bag this offseason after having, hopefully for his sake, a stellar year in which he starred there in Chicago. But that's the final thing I'll say on that. Again, you guys know the drill. It doesn't matter where you stay. If you were following everything going on the Stroman front, I have all the tweets. I screenshot them small. I remember that as they were transpiring. Literally broke my heart because I looked up to him as a kid. Again, height doesn't measure heart. I'm a short schmuck. I'm 5'5", right? Marcus Stroman is one of the shortest pitchers out there in baseball, and I've always admired him from that, from playing with Team USA in the WBC to being an absolute stud in the playoffs with the Toronto Blue Jays. So much to love. Loved him when he first came in Queens, and he decided to spit on the face of the entire fan base and then some as he exited, being a sore loser instead of being humble and being ready that, yes, his tenure was coming to an end. Now it's time for greater pastures elsewhere. You know, I know, crazy. It's almost like it's hard to imagine a player having class. You know, it's almost like that's the case with most players, unlike him. But I digress. I had to go on that little rant there because I'm sorry, I had to. It drives me bananas. But what also drives me bananas is this Mets team tonight. So let's get into it. Let's break it down as we speak. So again, this was the first Mets loss, as I mentioned, with at least 6 strong innings from their pitcher, that being Justin Verlander, who again really did his best efforts tonight, but the offense had nothing to show. And of course have now tied their season high from last year in offensive shutouts, being shut out already 8 times in not even 60 games this season. But as we get into this one, it starts off in the first. As we mentioned, George Springer with a leadoff ding dong to dead center, and it's a 1-0 Blue Jays lead. The Mets have now been outscored 40-something to 16 or 18. The Mets' first innings continue to be their demise. It doesn't matter if you're Justin Verlander. It doesn't matter if you're Carlos Carrasco. The Mets just haven't performed well in the first inning. It's been lopsided, and it continues, and that was ultimately their demise tonight. Who knows what would have happened if the Mets weren't losing early on? Maybe things would have been different against Seabass, but you know, you're never going to know, right? So it's a 1-0 early lead, first batter that JV sees, and that's the only run he gives up tonight, because 2 outs after, Brandon Belt would have walked, but that would be all she wrote. We get to the bottom of the first with 2 outs. Jeff McNeil legs what normally would be a single for a lot of guys into a double. Nice throw there by George Springer, but even better dive and save there at second in Jeff McHits, more like Jeff McDouble. You're ordering that today, and you know, if you like your McDoubles, and there you go. But unfortunately, with 2 outs, the Mets couldn't come up clutch there with a deep single or even another extra base hit to drive him in. So we head to the second, still down 1-0. In the second, Justin Verlander has his first 1-2-3 inning of the day. And then as we advance to the third, because of course, as you'd figured, the offense did nothing. With 2 outs, you got yourself that being in Bo Bichette with a single. Bo Bichette is currently on pace to have the most hits in baseball this year, if I'm not mistaken. The guy is a contact machine, but he's an extra base hits machine. He spreads the field. Bo Bichette is such a pulverizing player. You know, I know his son, not son, what am I saying? I know his father is absolutely proud. His father was a great slugger in his own right there with Colorado for a long time. But Bo Bichette, I've always admired. I love a lot of the guys on this Blue Jays team. Love them even when they had Teoscar Hernandez, Marcus Semien. You know, they've had a lot of pieces, and they still do. And it just sucks, you know, when you see a Blue Jays team that normally I'm quietly kind of rooting for as long as they don't play the Mets. But now that they're playing the Mets, you know, I despise them at the moment. But no less, even after Bo's single there, the third, the Blue Jays would not score a run. So as we advance to the bottom of the third, Mark Cannon, look, I don't know if it's because the weather is nice or because it's the start of Pride Month. As we know, Mark Cannon is I feel like the most vocal advocate for Pride Month every single year. You know, he's coming there from Oakland and from the San Francisco area, in which he's always been very adamant about his feelings in regards to Pride. But I don't know what it is, but every time, just like last year in June, he really started turning on, and he's doing it again. We saw the bombs. He helped single-handedly carry the Mets offense against the Phillies, right? And now he continued. Again, a lot of hard contact. He's really locked in right now. Got himself a single and a stolen base and a stolen bag. Just his second or third stolen bag of the year. Read that really well. Alvarez would then reach on an error. Vladdy tries to flick it back to Seabass. Alvarez for a catcher is so damn fast. It's impressive to see. But you see runners on the quarters, right? No outs. What do the Mets do? This is what they do. You get a first pitch swinging, third base pop out from Brandon Nimmo. You get a strikeout right down the dick from Francisco Lindor, who had no clue what pitches were coming to him. And then you get Jeff McHits with a first pitch swinging pop out in the infield. Absolutely, and I'm pardon my French, I apologize, dog shit at bats from this Mets team, and that was the golden opportunity, because them not taking advantage, them not tying the game there, all they needed was literally a ground out, and it would have been an RBI to tie the game. That is all they needed, and they couldn't do it. This Mets offense was nothing short of anemic tonight. And again, give credit where credit's due. Seabass was absolutely stellar. He made Lindor. He made this entire offense look so damn stupid. But having said that, you still expect better from this team, even when a pitcher is in his bag in a groove the way that Chris Bassett certainly was tonight. I digress. As we get to the fourth then, the Mets don't convert, of course, so Belt with a walk and then a double play would end a nice double play turn there by the Mets. Then as we fast forward to the sixth inning, the final inning of Justin Verlander's night, and this was an important one. It was a stellar one, and it pisses me off even more that the Mets could give him run support for a 40-year-old who pitched 117 pitches tonight, and they have nothing to show for it. Bo Bichette with a single, Vladdy with a walk, 2 outs because back-to-back strikeouts is what JV does. Merrifield reaches on an infield single, and instead of bringing in Dominic Leone, who you don't know where you're going to get from, Buck says, JV, I'm going to let you try to get that final out, and he strikes out Dalton Varsho to end the game. Justin Verlander's final line, folks. Again, it wasn't the sharpest outing, but he got the job done. His breaking pitches, the slider, the curveball, especially the curveball, was devastating for this Blue Jays lineup. That, again, is high offensively powered. You have a lot of weapons there, but Justin Verlander worked his absolute ass off tonight and has nothing to show for it because, again, this offense simply was not able to handle Chris Bassett, the former Met, feeling like he had the entire Mets playbook, even against some guys I say he hasn't had as much familiarity against in his career, even guys in the clubhouse, and Mark Vientos. Again, love Marky V. I'm glad he played tonight. He didn't look good. And I want to say this too, and this is something that genuinely pisses me off, and I want to know how you guys feel. I know it's easy for us to get caught up in the moment, right, in regards to if a player's not performing well. But for people to say right away that Mark Vientos is shit and all these things, you're the same fans that wrote off Francisco Alvarez when he was an automatic out for over 2 weeks straight after his call-up. There were not many people advocating for Alvarez. I was saying, give the kid a leash. He's 21 years of age. Mark Vientos, it's almost like not starting him every day after being scorching hot as one of the best power hitters in all minor leagues when you first brought him up may have hurt his development a little bit to really gain acclimated to start the season. This is why you need to give these kids leashes, even if they're going to be a liability for a little bit. As long as they're not like the sole reason why you're losing a game, I want them to get reps. If you're not going to give them consistent reps, it's as simple as this. Then send their ass back down to AAA. It's not that hard to comprehend, yet it has been, however, to this point for Buck Showalter and everyone else involved in that front office for the Mets. So Vientos didn't have a good day at the plate at all. Beatty didn't have a good day at the plate at all. Alvarez was able to put the ball in play. That's encouraging, but there's a reason why I'm not going to nitpick the kids, especially right now, because if it wasn't for them, this Mets offense wouldn't have had the life that they've had to finally uproar and spark their season that all began that night against the Tampa Bay Rays a couple weeks ago, in which I was in attendance at the game when the Mets won that game in extras thanks to Pete Alonso hitting that walk-off bomb. So that's just a final thing I'll say on that. Really, really pisses me off. Again, I understand we have those short-term emotions and feelings, but also think big picture here. There's a reason why he's playing and why he should be playing, and there's an also reason why we should continue to see more of him playing, even if he has his struggles, because naturally every player goes through slumps, and it's imperative for a young player that has little experience to make sure he's playing every day so he doesn't get in his head. Veterans, you're a veteran for a reason. You know how to handle the bench role better. That's why Eduardo Escobar has thrived over the past month plus of baseball while being in such a limited role, in which Eddie, I'd imagine, is only going to start one game this series. Could be wrong. For all I know, he's going to start tomorrow, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense if he starts Sunday in the day game of facing Yusei Kikuchi. Batting from the right side of the plate, he's done very well. Even from the left side of the plate, he hasn't been terrible, but Eddie against lefties has been looking very sharp as of late, so I'd expect to see that on Sunday at minimum. But let's get back into breaking down this ball game as I'm going on these little rants here and there. I'm flush again. I know I am. I'm sweating. I'm in a garage as we speak that doesn't have air conditioning, and it's hot. It's the start of summer. So yeah, that's why I look that way. Okay, where were we? Where was I ranting? Let me go through the checklist real quick. So we talked about the sixth inning where JV got out of that. Okay. Then in the seventh with 2 outs again, Justin Verlander, gutsy performance. Thank you for that. Unfortunate that the Mets were not able to help you out tonight. And you know, we all know that damn well when you get a really sharp performance from your quote-unquote ace, you know, that we've known for the past decade now. We know what that feeling's like. Either way, in the seventh with 2 outs, Marte reaches on an opposite field single and then steals a bag. Bassett checks him twice, and then, of course, the runner can have as big of a lead as he wants, or else, you know, if they throw back to third one more time, it needs to be a pickoff, or he's automatically balked to second base. But Marte doesn't care, because after the second throw, he gets a big lead, and he steals that bag for his 16th stolen bag of the season. That is star-studded Starling. Marte McFly, you could rather say. But Bassett had retired 14 batters in a row, leading up to Marte reaching base safely there. Again, Bassett, after allowing Alvarez to get on, or Cannon, whichever one it was, he got himself in a damn groove. And he would continue to, because he would get out soon thereafter to end the 7th. In the 8th, Drew Smith comes in. Vladdy with a single, but thankfully a nice double play turn would end the inning. In the bottom of the 8th, then, with 2 outs, Seabass comes out, Miza comes in. It's lefty versus lefty for Nimmo, who's done really well against lefties. Chris Bassett's final line again tonight, guys. 8.2 scoreless innings. 8 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts. Absolutely carved up the Mets. Great outing. Maybe even 9 strikeouts. It just killed the Mets tonight. And as annoying and as frustrating as that is to say, he deserves credit. Stellar outing. We'll just see how Chris Bassett does when it comes to his durability throughout the remainder of this season. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Chris Bassett goes and helps the Blue Jays on a deep run, as I think were stellar in playoffs, that's going to sting for me as a guy that saw that man crumble in the biggest games that mattered most last year, as was the case with Max Scherzer and others. Bassett isn't only to blame there, but it still would sting. I would say that much. But again, we'll see what happens as we get through the course of the 162. So Nimmo is out in the worst way possible to end the 8th, when you're hoping that you could try to start a rally here. Again, you're only down a run at this point. And Nimmo is out via the pitch clock violation. And why was that not only frustrating? Well, 1, you never see that happen with Nimmo, so that really pisses me off. And 2, the ump missed a pitch clock violation earlier in the game on Chris Bassett while facing Francisco Lindor. Again, there was not, the ump had some bad calls that were not in favor of the Mets, some that were in favor of the Mets, and this one too was frustrating. The pitch clock violation was true and it was valid regarding Nimmo, and that pissed me off a lot. But what was also true is that Bassett had himself one that, they just decided not to call while facing Lindor. So it is what it is, but that too was frustrating. And then as we head to the 9th, Jeff Brigham, who again, Brigham overall has been really, really sharp for this Mets bullpen. He's going to get a lot of criticism tonight, but people are forgetting just how important Brigham has been for this bullpen, in which the Mets have had very little reliability in said pen. If you're not named Adam Ottavino, if you're not named David Robertson, the Mets don't have many people that they feel confident at all turning to in one-run ball games. And unfortunately for Jeff Brigham's case, as sharp as he's been overall this season for the Mets, really sharp expected numbers, expected ERA, all that stuff, he gives up a single to Merrifield, and then Varsho just takes him deep to right to make it a 3-0 ball game on a 3-0 count, no less. Normally, again, a pitch that a lot of guys are taking, and I'm sure that's exactly what Brigham expected right down the pipe. But Varsho gets the okay, and he rips that, no doubter, and that'll make it a 3-0 ball game. Pete Alonso would get a single there with 2 outs against Jordan Romano, Canadian native actually, who is now pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays as their closer, which is a cool little story there. But then, of course, that'll do her as Brett Beatty strikes out to end the game. Again, Mets fans, Mets lose by a final score of 3-0. The offense wasn't there. It was absolutely shit tonight. Pitching duel. If you're in favor of pitching duels, then you certainly enjoy that. But offensively, witnessing it again, taking time out of your day to watch this Mets team be absolute dog shit offensively isn't fun either. So again, you see, look at the zeros, guys. The Mets had 1, 2, 3. The Mets had 4 hits tonight. 4 effing hit. Beatty had a terrible night. I love you, Brett. He roped a nice double yesterday, but Beatty really, really bad outing tonight. Struck out 3 times. Again, like many guys that we saw in Lindor and Nimmo, and Vientos, the younger guys, they were not able to read Chris Bassett well. And that's what happens when Chris Bassett has like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30 effing pitches in his arsenal. Obviously, I'm exaggerating here. He has at least 6, though, if I'm not mistaken. 5 or 6. He has a lot of pitches in his arsenal, like Yu Darvish, for example. And he just had this team guessing from the get-go, and they were not able to feel comfortable at any point. They were never able to get in a groove, and ultimately, that was their demise here. I do want to share a couple more updates with you guys before we get on to talking briefly about our... Actually, before we do that, guys, I want to know in the comments down below, what is your prediction for the remainder of the series after the Mets lose, again, by a final score of 3-0 tonight? Do the Mets lose this series? Do the Mets win this series? How are you guys feeling? And what do you think is going to be the outcome of the next 2 games of baseball starting tomorrow, in which you are going to have Tyler McGill on the bump against Jose Barrios, who has been pitching much better this year than what we saw in the WBC with Team Puerto Rico and all last year with the Blue Jays. And then the day game, you're going to see Kodai Senga pitching on normal rest for the first time ever, facing off against that being and Yusei Kikuchi. It really, I love the fact, honestly, that it's a like duel. It's a Japanese battle. I think that is really cool because those are rare things. It's great for the game. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well there for the Sunday game too. So I'm definitely going to be locked in on that game, see what happens. But I want to know how you guys are feeling. What do you think is going to happen over the next 2 games and ultimately the series? And as we do that, I of course have to let you guys know about our great sponsors on the channel. That of course being at Sorare MLB. You guys know the drill, but Sorare MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there. You draft your team, you sign up, you draft your team for free. Again, you don't have to spend a dime if you don't want to. However, if you do, you get greater chances to win in weekly tournaments that you enter with all people in the baseball community out there. And right now, by signing up and joining my WardyNYM MLB League, which is a unique league that we have a couple hundred followers in right now, if you guys sign up, enter your lineups, enter weekly tournaments, and do it consistently, you will be entered for a chance to win a Mets jersey that is likely going to be El Troll that will be making the official announcement next week, and that jersey winner will be picked at the end of the month. So again, all you have to do is click the link in the description, the live show, watching live or on replay, sign up to WardyNYM MLB League. Again, your chances of winning the jersey are far greater than, of course, you just being a subscriber on the channel. You go with the extra effort, you just click the link, you sign up for free, and you enter. And of course, by playing the game as a whole, by entering tournaments globally, you have great chances of not only winning, whether it's free MLB subscriptions, whether it's winning free jerseys of your favorite players as well, whether it's things like winning VIP access to meet your favorite players in the Mets organization, among other teams, and so much more. Again, the possibilities are endless. I love this game to death. I'm playing it weekly as we speak right now. Only one of my teams is thriving right now, and that is the team that I had Justin Verlander starting and Edward Cabrera, and Cabrera killed it. He has been very much like Senga. We're at home in Marlins Park, killing it on the road. Not the case, but struck out and dominated an Oakland A's team. So again, guys, make sure to click the link in the description. Shout out to everyone for being a part of WardyNYM MLB League, because again, we just gave away a Brett Beatty jersey giveaway yesterday to a random person that we did a randomizer on that entered the tournament, and that of course was actually a member on the channel, a great supporter in Yoshima. So again, your odds are very great in winning a potential El Troll jersey, and again, the winner will be announced at the end of the month. So shout out to Sorare MLB as always for being a great sponsor on the channel. But now I'm going to go back into the chat here and ask what your guys' opinions are. Pedro says Broom. So after the Mets swept the Phillies, Pedro believes the Mets are now going to get swept here against the Blue Jays. Okay. Series L says Brett. Luz says we win Sunday, so only one win. A lot of you guys are saying the Mets are only going to win one game out of this series. Okay. Let's see. Lose 2 of 3. McGill will lose again. I think personally, and call me crazy, and again, we'll find out tomorrow. And like I said, guys, not a great chance that we'll be live tomorrow. Again, I never say never, but if I'm not around, like I'm not going to be rushing home because I'm out, enjoying my weekend with my family as we speak. But I will say this, if I am around, then we will of course do it. But at minimum, you're going to get a recap video tomorrow. And I'm hoping that I talk about a victory in tying the series up one way or the other, because if there's one thing that I'm looking forward to tomorrow, it is a pitching matchup in which at least, I feel more confident in after what we saw. And I think the Mets batters are ready to face guys not named Chris Bassett. So you really hope they start to break out again. The Mets offense did not look great at all against the Phillies. They just got just enough done. So that, and the pitching was so stellar, but it's Tyler McGill can hopefully give the Mets at minimum 5 solid innings. I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned for a big drip tomorrow, mainly because of the fact that he's been getting hit hard a lot lately. And this is a very, very, very strong and high-flying and powered Blue Jays offense. So the game might end early before we know it. It might be a batter's box tomorrow, going back and forth left and right, hopefully in the Mets' favor. But one thing's certain, the Mets need to make sure that they have themselves a better offensive value than what they had today. Try to win that game so you get the rubber match on Sunday, in which you're excited and feeling good. Kodai Senga, 1 pitching at home, 2 on regular rest to see how he does. And again, against a fellow countryman and Yusei Kikuchi, which is a really cool story as well. So I know the ballpark is always dope too when you have fans that are going there specifically to either see Kikuchi and or Senga. That's always great too. So I'm looking forward to seeing that happen on Sunday. But yeah, again, I don't blame you guys for thinking that the Mets are, say, going to lose the series. However, I do think I'm still holding out hope. This Mets team at home has been very sharp. You just got to hope that they can really start to snap out of their funk. And hopefully they can really get on to Jose Barrios, who, don't get me wrong, has had some solid starts this year for sure, has been sharper than what we've seen in the past, but is still very much a hittable pitcher, as is most guys in the league, right? Chris Bassett had the Mets number tonight. Barrios has a very different arsenal, however, very different style pitcher than what we saw in Chris Bassett. So hopefully that ends up in the Mets' favor tomorrow and they get themselves that victory. But again, I appreciate everyone that's watching live on a replay as we're breaking down the latest Mets game as they lose game 1 of a 3-game set against the Toronto Blue Jays by a final score of 3-0. I appreciate everyone's live reactions for people watching live replay. What I did want to share with you guys, though, as I was saying earlier, were a couple updates tomorrow for everyone attending the ballpark. I hope you guys, of course, have a great time. If I'm not mistaken, tomorrow is the retirement night for Gary Cohen. Why am I blanking right now? Gary Cohen, Howie Rose, Al Leiter, and Howard Johnson. Huge night for all Mets fans attending, which is absolutely sick. So again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow night. I would have been there if I wasn't out of town. I'm in completely other state right now. So that's what's happening on that front. But I will say this, for everyone attending, I hope you guys are rocking. I hope you have a great night. Again, Citi Field was borderline sold out tonight on this Friday night. And it really pisses me off, especially when you have a great fan turnout and you have nothing to show for it offensively. That is where you're going to hear the boos that we saw a little bit on Lindor and the team as a whole, as they just, again, we're getting carved up left and right. But what I will say this again, tomorrow, for everyone attending, I hope you guys have an absolutely great time. I hope it's a great, entertaining game. Again, big game for Mets history. Gary Cohen, Howie Rose, these guys especially have been absolute focal points of this organization for decades and decades on end. This is long overdue. This is why you love Steve Cohen and everything that he's done to really pay homage to the history and the current that is this Mets organization. And when you have the two best voices out there, and Howie and Gary in their own right, is beyond deserved. It's so inspiring. Guys that I certainly look up to, being in the sports media space, talking about Mets on the daily. I will never get enough of them, and they truly deserve that. Al Leiter, of course, during his great moments with the team in Queens, as was the case there with Hojo. Very happy for them all. And do want to share you guys one more announcement, and that is that on August 26th, barring any changes, because this was initially reported from Hector Gomez, who usually is doing reports for, especially players that are, Puerto Rican, Dominican, anyone, in that sense. He's normally covering anything and everything that is Spanish in MLB. He came out with a report today that on August 26th, the Mets are going to retire Big Sexy Bartolo Colon. I don't know for certain if that's accurate. I think it is. That's crazy. And that's really close to my birthday too. So if I'm around, I'm going to try to attend that game. Big Sexy retirement night, August 26th, for those that aren't aware. But one more update before we get to wrapping things up, guys, I want to share with you all is that the Mets did make a signing earlier today. No, it wasn't groundbreaking. I would have maybe did a video on it if I was around, but I wasn't because I was doing a 4-hour drive earlier today. Thank you, Rush Hour. I appreciate that. But as many of you know, the Mets have traded for right-hand reliever Vinny Natoli. Gotta love the name. Vin, welcome to Queens. He'll fit in nicely. From the Cubs, he was in limbo after opting out of his minor league contract yesterday. He will go on the Mets 40-man roster right away, but can be optioned, which is important. As I was telling you guys, I don't know what the Mets trade in return. I don't know if it's just cash considerations or a player to be named later, but the Mets need guys with player options, especially with the circus that they've had in their bullpen at times this year. This rotation, this revolving door, if you will. They need to get some guys with some options that can eat innings when they need them to and send them down also, and not have to sacrifice losing them right away. But Natoli has a 3.48 ERA and 16 appearances in AAA for the Iowa Cubs this year. So again, the Mets made a trade with a guy named Vinny. We'll see how he does in Queens. We'll see if he eats any innings for the Mets right away or if he's going to be in AAA. Again, he's on the 40-man, so we'll see what happens on that front. I know many of you guys know about that news already, but I just want to share that with you further. Big Sexy retired. Yeah, apparently, should Hector Gomez's report be true, because he's very hit or miss. That's the case with a lot of guys are reporting on Twitter, unfortunately. Even the big names a lot of times get stuff wrong. But what Hector reported again, August 26th, Big Sexy Bartolo Colon is retiring as a Met there at Citi Field. So we'll see what happens. That would be really cool. Very fun. Big Sexy, of course, to many Mets fans is a folk hero, and not only because of the home run, but just a very serviceable starter, very late in his career, not in the best shape either, but 8 innings and had overall a really, really strong and impressive MLB career and went through a lot. So yeah, interesting to see what'll happen there on August 26th. But again, appreciate everyone that's been chiming in as we've been breaking down, sharing some Mets updates with, as you will, before we get into breaking down, obviously, the latest thing. And the latest thing, of course, is going to be our great friends, that being at pardon me, Mojo. And of course, for those that don't know Mojo Sportsbook, if you guys are not Jersey residents, then you guys can tune this out. This is for my New Jersey Mets fans specifically, because Mojo Sportsbook is only legal currently in the state of New Jersey. It will be legal in other states soon up, but for now, I need you guys to listen in, because the reason why I bring certain sponsors on the channel is truly if I like the product, and that is the case here with Mojo Sportsbook, because it is like meeting Robinhood, where you can do day trading or hold on to your stock for a while, meeting MLB players, where you can invest on players, you can invest on player props. Every over on their K prop that they have had for the Mets out of their last 5 starters, if you hammer the over, which on almost all of them have been plus odds at least plus 100 to plus 20, you would have came out like an absolute bandit that I've been tweeting out over the past week plus. But for those that don't know Mojo, again, it's the live betting stock market that's operating in New Jersey. Every bet on Mojo offers live trading, so you can get in and get out all game long. It's stock trading meets sports betting with money lines, player props, and a whole new career-long bet they've created. The best part is that you're in total control of your bets. You can cash in when you're up, and you can cash out if it's going bad. And that's imperative, especially for someone like me when I'm doing my normal sports betting. You want to make sure that you have good odds when you're cashing out, and the availability to cash out. Because a lot of times you want to cash out if, say, things are looking good, and the sports book, for whatever that may be, is not letting you get that until, of course, the odds are more in their favor. Mojo's cash outs are more available, way more available, rather, than any other sports book currently out there in the market. So again, guys, all you got to do is use my promo code WardyNYM, and you get a 20% deposit match up to $100. Again, that is promo code WardyNYM, getting a deposit match up to $100 on 20%. Shout out to Mojo Sportsbook for being a great sponsor on the channel. And all you guys got to do is click the link in the description to sign up. New Jersey residents, make sure to sign up today. Thank you so much for that. Let's see what we got in here. Have I ever, let's see. What are we getting? What is the chat going on? Why am I looking at the chat and you guys are saying, like, apologies to Vogie Clown? No, I'm not going to apologize for shit. Vientos looks over match your Twitter video making fun of Vogie was embarrassing. No, it wasn't. It's called making a joke, and if you get your panties in a twist about it, that's unfortunate for you. Imagine actually getting butthurt about me standing in the box taking 3 pitches, which is what Vogelback has done for the past month. It's called having fun. It's called interaction. It's called being lighthearted and not taking things too seriously. In the same way that you shouldn't take too seriously Mark Vientos having a bad day today, the same way that you shouldn't have taken Francisco Alvarez having an absolutely dog shit first 2 weeks of the MLB season after he was rushed up there to the bigs, right? I mean, Alvarez, no one thought he was going to be impactful with the bat when he was initially brought up. The first 2 weeks into the year, he was a ground ball merchant. He was a strikeout machine. Swinging at fastballs at his face like no tomorrow. Thank you, Josh Hader. And then he went on to have the best month among all rookies in baseball this past year, and somehow, some way, was still not given NL Rookie of the Year because that was a robbery. Was better in every statistical category. But again, Spencer Steer, we're going to give it to him in Cincinnati. Again, great young player in his own right. That was frustrating too. But the point is that you have to give the kids a leash if you're going to call up Mark Vientos, who was the best power hitter in AAA prior to his call-up, then you need to play the kid. Yes, he's not going to be good every night. And it's almost like this entire Mets offense, not named Marcana, not named Jeff McNeil, were absolute dog shit tonight. So yes, let's go ahead and nitpick one guy when in reality, if he's going to be on this team, he deserves rightful playing time, because as a kid, you need to make sure you're giving him consistent reps or else he can get in their head. It's called common sense. And if not, then you send him down and give him consistent reps every day, which is what he should be getting regardless. Daniel Vogelbach is a veteran. He's an OBP god at his absolute best, but the Mets brought Vientos up for a reason, and he was a factor into the Mets starting to turn the tide this season when he had that game-tying bomb against the Rays. Then Francisco Alvarez with a 3-run bomb with 2 outs against the Rays that same night to tie the game, and then Pete Alonso ripping a no-doubt multi-run home run to win it in extras. Vientos is a factor. He was a factor as well with an RBI sack flying his only at-bat the night before, that 112 exit mile per hour exit velo. But again, we're going to sleep and not talk about that. We're going to talk about tonight when he strikes out, when everyone and their mother was striking out tonight against a really good Chris Bassett. Again, he's not going to be sharp every night, but if he's going to be on the team, give him reps, or else there's no point of having him up here. And that is what I'm going to say. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But guys, with that being said, that's going to do it for the show. I appreciate everyone that was watching live. Replay again, the Mets lose by a final score of 3-0 to the Toronto Blue Jays. They look to bounce back tomorrow with Tyler McGill on the mound facing off against Jose Barrios. And then the series finale, whether the Mets will be in a position to either avoid a sweep, to potentially win the series, or to salvage the series. Again, that'll be Yusei Kikuchi, the southpaw, versus the right-hander in Kodai Senga, looking to stay hot there at Citi Field. And because of Kodai Senga pitching when he is, guys, now everything is lined up. Both Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer are lined up to pitch in the Atlanta Braves series next week starting Tuesday, and then they are also lined up to pitch in that series afterwards against the Yankees for the Subway Series. So again, exciting stuff. Hopefully the Mets can continue to get strong pitching, but this time the offense back it up. Everyone have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this, and as always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.